We are going to introduce ourselves, and I have a few announcements, and then we're going to get going with our presentation today, which we're really excited about. So, as always, I'm your host, Julianne Selesky. Be here all day. Thanks. I was going to do that.
Okay, perfect. Hi, I'm Leah Rowe. I am a co-organizer for 1 Million Cups. I am also with HealthFinch and the founder of Culture Community. Culture Community, we have an event tomorrow, 9 a.m., Boardman and Clark, across the square. Diana is presenting, so I'm going to let her do her spiel for what we're doing tomorrow.
Oh, am I going to skip you then? Okay, so
We'll come back to me.
my name's Diana Pastrana. I'm going to be presenting at Culture Community tomorrow. We're going to be talking about competing values within the workplace. So we're going to go through, we're going to play a little interactive game type scenario, and we're going to kind of identify what culture you are, and then talk a little bit about how to support both communication between competing values as well as how you can set up your office to be most efficient for that. So I'm really looking forward to it. There's a ton of people coming, so I'm a little nervous.
We have 50 RSVPs. Usually we have about 30 to 40. So we have 50 RSVPs, and I've heard 10 people who are not RSVP'd are coming.
Yeah,
so
I'm terrified. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so exciting, so fun, and it's just such a relevant topic because even when you have company core values, you'll notice that when you work in different departments have different competing values. So we're going to talk about that.
And we're going to talk about, what you say and what you have for culture is different.
Mm-hmm.
You can publish all you want, but really what you really actually have is a culture that you create by doing. So that'll be tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'm really looking forward to it. I am also now the social media guru for 1 Million Cups, and
Welcome to the team.
And I cannot do it by myself, so I'm going to ask everybody today. I'm going to have a community ask like every week, because that's like 1 Million Cups, right?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you guys all to take a picture and post stuff on your favorite social media and go through. I know 1 Million Cups has been really relevant to me as far as networking and introductions to new companies, and it's been phenomenal. So I want to share that, and I would love if you guys shared it as well. So that's my ask. Yay. Is that a question?
Yeah. Is there a hashtag that you'd like people to tag?
Oh, did DP pay you to ask that?
No, I
Ding,
Wow,
yes
on
there
cue.
is. I think I'm just kind of focusing on LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn is just, so follow us on 1 Million Cups Madison, Wisconsin. And then we were toying around with the idea of hashtag 1MMC or 1MM-Cups MSN. So 1 Million Cups MSN. Because million is 2 M's. That's what it stands for, million. Yeah, no, I hear you. I Googled it, to be honest with you. So
MC stands for Motorcycle Club, and while that might be popular, we would have to serve beer.
Or the Madison Club.
Yeah.
See how I did that? See how she plugs that? So 1MM Cups MSN is our hashtag. We're going to write that out and just plop it somewhere so you have it.
Good call.
Lots of good things coming, but post up, please.
Right on. I'm Michael, also kind of a new co-organizer. I'm operating in kind of the coach and taking care of our website role. So if there's anything that seems weird on our website, let me know before other people see it. And yeah, I have no plugs to give.
Michael, what's your most important role here, though?
Oh, that's a good point. My most important role is to supply the coffee with cups. Which is, the coffee is from Crescendo, not from Barrique's. We did not get cups this morning. I did not get cups this morning, and so we had to disaster control. But we have cups now, and enjoy as much coffee as you can drink this morning.
We're co-branded this morning.
Yes.
I'm Dominic DeMarco. I work at an insurance company doing boring things during the day and help over here in the afternoons and evenings. And my ask actually is something I've been working on for a while, and Garrett's first slide really hits home with me. I'm looking for somebody who has experience actually standing up a nonprofit and knows the mechanisms. I know several people in here work in nonprofit, but I'm actually talking about standing it up and what that looks like. So I have a passion project that my mother and I actually sponsor, the education for 5 children in India. They're all in the same family, and I've got some ideas on how to expand that out a little bit and make it more formal. So that's all I got.
Great, so I have a few announcements. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Field 59, for coming here and giving us a great live stream. Crescendo Coffee for the coffee, Old National Bank for supplying that. Barriques today, for giving us the cups, and the library for this great space. So we are very fortunate to be here. I feel lucky to be with all of you. A few other announcements quickly. So G-Beta Generator, 6 weeks accelerated program to help startups. Free program, keyword. Those applications are due soon, September 17th. So if you'd like more information about that, come see myself or Leah.
24th.
Sorry?
24th.
I have the 17th.
They told me the 24th.
We have conflicting dates.
Use the early one.
Yep, yeah, so.
We'll figure that out for you guys. And then my last announcement, 2017 Early Stage Symposium is November 15th and 16th. So looking for people to attend. So send invitations is what I've been told to do. So if you want...
Right. Sorry, MadWorks Accelerator is the 24th.
Okay, look, we cleared things up really quickly around here. So it is the 17th for G-Beta. If you want more information about that, come see myself or Leah afterwards. We can get you connected with the right people. So with that, I'm excited to introduce Garrett from Whoa.
Well, we gotta do introductions first.
Oh, sorry, I messed up. I'm sorry. Introductions. Garrett, do you want to start? Oh, you'll do yours later.
Hey there, Scott Cole with Third Space.
Steve Claude, co-founder of 32 Auctions, a platform for hosting and managing silent auction fundraisers.
Brian Robertson, software developer with background in sales of software and strong interest in startups.
I'm Shannon Flash. I'm a project manager at WPS.
Travis Human. I own Stray Cat Bicycles, which is a consumer direct bike company based here in Madison.
Neil Mathwig, I'm with Realty Executives. I'm a real estate agent and the founder of iHeart Madison.
I'm Tom Willis. I'm a software engineering executive and recently started mentoring with Generator. That's been really fun.
Lucas Frisbee, I'm the startup team strategist for Starting Block Madison.
Chandra Miller-Feenan with Starting Block Madison.
Paul Popo, research analyst, WEDC.
Mitch DeWitt, Merrill Lynch Wealth Management, and I'm excited to get an update from Garrett here.
Brian Lind, I'm Julianne's husband, new to Madison, looking for opportunities and meeting as many new people as possible.
I'm Dan Anderson. I'm a physician that is also a software developer and consultant to the software industry, primarily in health informatics, but I work with other projects too. And I just moved to Madison a month ago.
Welcome.
And I'm looking to meet some new friends.
Came to the right place.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you.
I'm DP Knudten. My company's name is Collaborator Creative because I collaborate creatively with a wide variety of individuals and companies on everything from custom writing to nonfiction branding.
Boom. Hit me when you did that. That was pretty good. I sat pretty close. My name is Jason Knockreiner, and for the first time I am here as my own business owner. Thank you. My group is called Rich Top Consulting, and so thank you.
I'm Bill Carpenter. I'm a recent UW grad. I'm actually working with Garrett on Well.
Nice. Good morning, I'm Steve Slatton, and I have my own little LLC, and I'm here networking.
Laura Lawrence. I'm our creative consulting.
I'm Brian Rathbone with i5 Digital Fitness, the only all-inclusive digital marketing company for under $1,000 a month. We try to do our best to keep your digital marketing digitally buff.
I'm Rob Sawan with Moments Photography. I'm a people photographer.
I'm Derek Gebler, founder of Field 59. Field 59 is an online video platform for media companies. One thing that we did this past weekend was we had a television station who's a customer of ours in Florida, in Sarasota, who streamed on the exact same stuff that we're streaming right now out to, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people watching the hurricane come through Florida. So it's exciting to work with media companies that are broadcasting safety announcements and news and keeping everybody informed. So it's just one of those things I just was really excited that we could do this past weekend.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Thanks.
Clara Benzo, HR manager at Akita Box.
Laurel Gauchore, customer success at Akita Box.
And Aiden Winnery, customer success at HealthFinch.
Woo! Okay, now I'm excited to introduce Garrett from Whoa.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Sorry about the audio before. Just wanted to make sure it worked, and at least we know everyone's awake. I'm that close to not being awake.
So thanks for coming out today. This is actually my first time presenting at A Million Cups. I've been a regular attendee since, I think some of the first ones back at the 100 State Building over in that tower. But today it's a pleasure to be able to present to you about some of the progress we've been making in one of my startups, WHOA, which stands for We Help One Another. And to get right into it, because I'm a scientist, I like to frame problems. And so, who thinks this is a problem? Show of hands, yeah. 8 men own the same wealth as the poorest 3.6 billion with a B, not 2 M's, a B. 3.6 billion people have the same amount of wealth as 8 individuals. Oh. Why is that a problem? Well, when we have a global wealth distribution, we start to create some personal dynamics. Maybe this is really loud. How do I turn this down? I don't think it's connected to my...
Yeah, good question.
Some alerts coming through. So, within an economic landscape where you have so much wealth inequality, you sort of get trickle-down effects. And it's not that dollars make it to every person. It's that we have interpersonal interactions that end up getting changed when we prioritize our money over other people and their needs. And at WHOA, we focus on basic needs and whether or not people have access to them, because we know that if people have access to their basic needs, they are primed to be able to thrive. So if we have a scenario where we have the dollar that regulates access to any of our basic needs, and we have more and more people with lesser and lesser access to money, then we have people who are struggling to meet these basic needs on a day-to-day basis. And that, to me, when I look at systems as a scientist, that to me is sort of the root of all suffering, when people don't have access to the things that they need to live. And another part that ties in here is that we tend to think that, especially in our culture, that we'll be happy if we succeed at something. There's a number of positive psychologists out there that are starting to show us that, in fact, this is probably the wrong order, that success does not precede happiness, that, in fact, we can be more successful if we work on our own internal happiness. So that's another reason why. And so all of that leads to me leaving the research position at the UW and trying to turn all of what I learned there into a labor of love, where I'm trying to address an issue that really matters to me. And that's what WHOA is all about. Our vision is a thriving world where everyone has access to their basic needs and they have opportunities to elevate their well-being. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what we're up to. So just a little bit about my background and why I think it's important to frame this problem. So I used to design factors that activate genes in order to reprogram cells. This is just a cartoon of some cells in culture and an arrow pointing at a stem cell culture that we would routinely do in the lab. So now that I'm not in academia anymore and I'm focused on a different system, I design ways to activate people in order to transform their communities. And so what we have here is a systems thinking and systems design, systems change model, which really underlies what is at the heart of WHOA. So in my work, if the cell is, in my work in the lab, if the cell is this thing separated from its environment, we know that there are genes inside the cell and cell culture conditions that help it survive and thrive. And if we want to reprogram, we have to add some defined and or designed factors to get from state A to state B, or the current state to an optimal state or target state. So what we know from that research in cellular reprogramming is that, in fact, within a cell, there are underlying master regulators, internal factors that are critical for the emergent identity of the cell. The cell is it's a complex system that emerges only because of a very complex network of interactions. And
The cell is pluripotent.
What's that?
The cell is pluripotent.
Some cells are pluripotent, yeah. So the cells I was working with were in fact pluripotent. Not every cell is, and what differentiates between a pluripotent cell or any other cell is not the genes that are inside, right? We all have a genome inside of our cells in our body, but the differences manifest in the slight different ways that we look. But the cells that you have that make skin and the cells that I have that make skin have different genomes, but they're running the same program, which is a set of genes that are interconnected into a gene network. And there are some genes at the root of that network that have a disproportionate influence on the rest of the genes in that network. So what I learned in the lab is that we can look into a system, a cell, dive down into the meaningful bits that are connected within that system to find out how the identity of that system emerges. And then you also need to know culture conditions that the cell survives and thrives in order to be able to successfully reprogram. So what if we took that model of cellular reprogramming and switched out the cell for communities, right? And then who are the functional units of a community, or what are they? In my view, those are people. We are the actors that combine in networks to give the identity to a given community. And then no doubt we all exist within the greater society or world, ecology, however you want to look at it. And there are certain culture conditions that exist that help to support and reinforce the viability of a community. So enough about the theory now. Now you know why I'm dealing with this. I think it's really important, as I mentioned, through the scientific lens, to define the culture conditions that we exist in. So this is what I see happening because of the problems that we see in the world with wealth inequality. We have suffering, uncontrolled growth, greed, zero-sum economics. There's irrational behavior in the markets. Currency is debt-based. People are acting selfishly. There's inequality, scarcity of resources in some populations. You get poverty. We have a metric that measures growth for growth's sake, which in a cellular environment is not a good thing. That's like a pathogen or a disease, cancer. We're disconnected. There's crime and consumption that are rampant because of this model. And what if we define the ideal conditions and we substitute the flip side of each one of those, where we're thriving, we have sustainable growth, there's win-wins instead of zero sums, we're mindful and gift-based, rooted in generosity and selflessness. I think it's important to be able to define where you want the whole thing to get to if you want to make the meaningful changes to arrive at that destination. So that's what this is about. And no doubt within the complex systems that are communities, people, the world, communities, societies, the world at large, ecosystems, there are actors within that system. And I think people are central to the change that needs to happen. We have to be the change, and our change comes through action. And our actions are guided by motivation and reward feedback loops. Just like the dollar motivates us to act in order to get what we need, so that we get what we need so we can go and do other things to continue surviving, right? We're creatures of habit. At WOA, we're wondering if we can build a positive feedback loop that instead of a system where you have no choice but to act in your own self-interest, if we're looking at this little matrix, you have what action leads to what benefit. So by the design that we live in currently, we have self-action leads to self-benefit. And it's inherently selfish by design, but it's not your fault. It's just the way the system emerged and has been designed. And we call that a free market economy. But what if you could always choose to benefit others before yourself? So when you took an action, you actually benefited someone else. And that in turn reciprocated value back to you. That would then spread to all the quadrants in this, and we wouldn't have to rely on charity so much and then say, not my chair, not my problem. And so our answer to that problem is that we need to redesign a system that helps people behave in ways that get people out of their own self-interest. And really what that's all about is recognizing other people, right? And that's the fundamental inherent design behind GoodPoint, which is the logo you see there. We created it to be a win-win, so that when you recognize others doing positive social good, you award them a point, and then you get a point in return. And as I mentioned, then you get a spread of value throughout society. And so I've told you a little bit about why we do what we do, how we do what we do. We want to elevate well-being by recreating wealth. So your positive action, pro-social actions, lead to an internal development of character and improvement of well-being. In that way, you can also earn points, and these points can be redeemed in a marketplace to help you meet your basic needs. And you know what? If you have your basic needs met, you can also, in the app that we're designing, you can offer your points into the thing we call the common good. So you can still do these pro-social actions, give your points back to a pool for other people who don't have their needs met. Maybe you don't need those points, but maybe you care enough about other people to meet their basic needs and you want to give them back to the common good. So that's something we're transitioning from an alpha to a beta right now. And then our what is, we want to design these ways to connect people positively, right? And so I'm going to go into what we call our well-being elevating practices that we've piloted this year. So the first one, did we figure out the audio? This is, either we're going to blast your ears or it's going to be muted or something's going to happen.
All right, I'll take the heat for it if it's bad. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Sweet. You might recognize the room. Can everyone hear?
The RealLife Library is a project organized by WHOA, which stands for We Help One Another. At WHOA, we want to elevate well-being at the personal, interpersonal, and community level. And the RealLife Library helps to do that by creating live events where we curate people as books to tell their stories. We invite members of the public to come and be readers. But when we listen, we engage in deep empathy and build relationships, which will build community. That's how the RealLife Library helps to fulfill the mission to elevate well-being.
So that was a little introduction. Don't mind that hippie. Wait, it's going to go back to the beginning now, isn't it? Oh, dang technology. Oh, sweet. So that was a RealLife Library. That's one way that we're designing that people can connect in a positive social way to earn these good points. So we create these live events. We had one in February. We'll have another one this Saturday. Here's one of my asks. Come this Saturday. Check out the RealLife Library. We have 12 new books. We have 2 books from last time that are coming back to be available for live checkouts. And then we also have 2 books whose videos we recorded. So the RealLife Library is a project where we have live in-person events to create social connections, positive social connections. And then we also create a digital library so that in the app, the GoodPoint app, you'll be able to go into the RealLife Library section and check out a book, watch the video, and then write a book report and say what you learned and how you felt. So you can do an emotional, empathetic reflection on how someone's story impacted you, right? Because we want to break down prejudice and stigma and increase empathy, which are counterparts of one another. So that's one way, and that's one ask. We'll have, again, 2 of those videos on display at the end of the event this Saturday. Another thing that we did was in partnership with the Madison Metropolitan School District. This is what we call the Thank You Card campaign. It's a pretty simple design. As you can see here, we have thank you cards that are squares with a quarter circle pre-drawn. On the front, students design some art that's relevant to a friend that they want to thank, and then they write a message on the back. And when they do that, they also have a member number in our system. They helped us prototype. Wow. Yeah, I don't have any more audio, so thanks. So then the students are just engaging in a simple peer-to-peer gratitude thing where they are doing some social and emotional learning in the schools, but it's very top-down. It's very teacher recognizes student, and there's very limited opportunities for the students to empower themselves in being, these recognizers, being able to identify these positive moments. And so this helps change that paradigm from top-down to horizontal. And then, so when these students, say Kid A designs a card, gives it to Kid B records it on their device. They're doing a tech rollout. So we're integrating visual and language arts, social and emotional learning, and financial and tech literacy. Tech literacy, because they're using their devices to record the transaction of getting a thank you card, and financial because they're earning good points for every card that they either give or receive, because no matter which side you're on, you're elevating your well-being. And so then they can cash out their good points for school store cash that helps them understand the value of their behaviors and get what they want and need. And here's just a little example of how those cards turned out for their CARES community night there. That was one set of them. And then a final project that we did, this was actually designed to, many of these, all of these actually, are designed to be sort of general in their scope and application, that you have a given community and you can have people connect in these ways. But we found that educational settings, learning environments are probably the best angle to take. And so Choose Your Own Adventure is an attempt to, so I do a lot of community work. WOA is one of the projects I have. I have another one called Mach1 Health, which is Madison Area Care for the Homeless. I do a lot of stuff. And one of the things I see as a problem in the community is not being able to organize people's voices, because that's a huge asset. Some people could say it's a problem. We're all problem pointer outers. But I think we can view that as an asset and say there's a lot of people who have something to say, but we have no way of capturing that. So what if we capture it and organize that information so that we can allow other people to engage in design solutions? So there's a concept called the Social Innovation Studio. It kind of incorporates design thinking, hearing from the people experiencing what issues they're struggling with, and then using a design thinking process to help build solutions that the people who are experiencing the problem consent to having become some real developed, deliverable thing. But we had no opportunity to pilot this. It's a pretty ambitious thing to just do community-wide. So instead, we went and partnered with Shabazz City High School. And so I led a course in fourth quarter of this past year of 7 high school students. So I introduced social design and entrepreneurship, and the whole idea was to empower them to be 21st century leaders, right? We're trying to build people for success, build empathy through their community engagement. They're using some scientific method to solve the social issues. They're analyzing the data, so they're getting an ample amount of STEM within this. And then they build, test, and evaluate iterative prototypes. And they're elevating their well-being because they're collaborating, working together, pursuing something that has a greater purpose. It goes beyond themselves. And some of the outcomes there, they built a survey, got 43 responses from themselves and their peers. They analyzed 491 data points to organize all the information into 4 categories. Then they sent out another survey to find out a little bit deeper insights about how people were experiencing these struggles. And then they ultimately designed a solution around the insights that they gathered. They also resolved conflict through consensus building, and the decision-making process that we used is very equitable. Everyone who's in the classroom that day has an equal say in the outcome, and they learn how to resolve conflict through that decision-making process. So they tested 5 prototypes in over 30 different features, and then they had the opportunity, even though unfortunately it was summer after fourth quarter and only 2 of the 7 really had any time to dedicate, and that's just not enough to run a business, especially developing it from scratch. But they had the opportunity to operationalize their business with a $1,000 grant from a partner organization. So in the future, we're likely going to be working with Shabazz again, and we're exploring other schools within the district to have the design thinking part and then the social entrepreneurship aspect and help them build business skills and develop business models. Also help them with identifying target market. As you might imagine, high schoolers think that they can sell their solution to the entire world. And that became abundantly obvious. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to help narrow down. And that was one of the things that we learned piloting this. And we're really grateful for that lesson. So there's a bunch of other points there. But ultimately, what are we working towards, right? We want to put this all together so that once we have our future leaders, right, that's our youth. When we have our future leaders graduating, we don't want them to be burdened by recessions and student loans. Instead, we'd like to have it be where they have an abundance of good points and they know the value of their positive social and emotional interactions, and they can get access freely to any basic needs that they have, and so they can pursue their highest dreams and aspirations and live a thriving lifestyle. So with that, I'll take questions.
So guys, we have about 5 minutes for questions. Just giving time for everyone who needs to rush out.
So you have quite a few different ways that you're supporting the community. Do you find that being so diverse is actually cutting out your impact in one way? I mean, like, should you be focusing on one really core project, or do you find that the web is helping? Makes sense.
That's an excellent question. So would I be more effective if I concentrated my focus like a laser rather than just light scattering? I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's I like science. I like to think of power that you invest into something, right, is energy over time. That's the literal physical equation of it. So yeah, if I focus more of my energy over time into a single endeavor, yeah, then I'm going to probably have more power output then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's wise. I've actually narrowed down a lot.
Okay.
Brian volunteers with Mach 1 Health, and he might be able to tell you that I've been pretty focused on that and woe only, and kind of trimming back on my other community work. But
I mean, the programs seem awesome. I'm not implying that you should eliminate any of them. It seems like a lot of work.
It's a little bit. That's why I only sleep 2 hours a night. Yeah.
So what I'm kind of missing is, like, how do we help? You know, like when we're waiting for the library to open, there's people here who are homeless, right? They're a floor below us right now.
Yeah.
How does this platform meet their basic needs? Like, we're all carrying around these devices, and in some respects, you know, technology is just at our fingertips. It's easy to say I'm giving Steve points and da-da-da on this person point, but how does that feed them? How does that clothe them and educate them and provide for their basic needs? They're sort of outside this platform. They're outside these circles of kind of our privilege that we have.
That's a great question. So the question is, how do we reach the people who are probably the most impacted by socioeconomic inequality? And I think the answer lies in design. So our initial design for GoodPoint was to make sure that we didn't go straight to mobile and smartphone apps. And that's what our alpha to beta is right now. So what we built was an SMS texting app so that anyone who had a cell phone would be able to use the system, and they could just text a numerical code on the card to a central phone number, and then those points would be stored with their phone number. There's just doing some market research on who has cell phones, who has smartphones. When we first started the design, it was about 80% of the population had smartphones, but 95% had cell phones. So that's why we want the SMS thing. And doing the work that I do, I was pretty intentional about reaching out to people on the street when I was doing some outreach work. So I think the short answer is you have to be intentional about reaching out, right? And then make sure people know where they can go. So we have a very small number of early adopters, sort of, we call them game changers, businesses that offer goods and services for good points and good points alone. And so yeah, there's been a number of times where I've seen people on the street go to Teddy Wedgers. They were our very first. and get them there. So, little bit by little bit, we build a marketplace around giving, a gift economy, if you will. And the incentive to the business is really just getting more feet in the door, and then a positive bit of PR, right? That they're supporting community social good, and they can actually write off the expense as advertising costs, right, as a loss leader. So I don't know if that directly answers your question.
I'm trying to move beyond empty gesture to something that really matters. Like I gave Steve points, I feel good, I can go about my day, and my conscience is clean, right? It helps somebody, at least I'm presuming I am. But then, did that person actually get points to go to Teddy Wedger's and buy a meal, you know?
Sure. And one of the things I should mention too is these wealth elevating practices. There are about 10 that I've designed, only 3 that we've been able to pilot so far. Usually it takes a co-creator champion like Bill. He's going to be helping out a lot with the alpha to beta transition and a lot of WOA stuff. We have someone who really wanted to see a human library-like project come to life, so the RealLife Library came to life. There were some co-creators for the thank you. Ultimately, there's some people I know from the Homeless Services Consortium and whatnot. I work with the city a lot in that aspect, and I've been involved in some conversations about how we might explore, there's a model in Albuquerque where people get picked up. It's called There's Got to Be a Better Way. People get picked up for a day work program, and so it's typically panhandlers, which tend to co-associate, right, with people experiencing homelessness. So that's being explored within the city, and there's a report to the Common Council to adopt some programs. So I actually used a design thinking process to co-facilitate a meeting that the city hosted to ask people who have or are experiencing homelessness to say, how would this work best for you? And so we came up with a number of design criteria of what would need to be included there. And one of the things that might come out of it is doing something like Choose Your Own Adventure with people experiencing homelessness, doing a forest bias sort of solution. So finding direct ways to engage. There's another homeless outreach program that I've designed to help build stories around people to humanize, because I think that's one huge thing. You walk down the street and it's not my problem, right? That's that lower quadrant. Other people, other action. Someone else has to take care of that. We do that a lot because we have limited time. And that's not your fault, but I think we have to have design ways for people to be able to engage in a meaningful way. And so hopefully we'll get there. I just need more time and more people.
So Garrett, we always end with asking you what can we as a community and we as 1 Million Cups, what can we do to help support you and your mission and what you're doing? So a few concrete things for us to walk away with would be just great.
Well, we'll be setting up a landing page for GoodPointGame.com and getting a list of beta testers for when we go alpha to beta. I can probably, if you're still a point person, send you a contact link when we get that. So that's one. Another one could be just showing up to the RealLife Library this weekend, seeing the magic that we create here. It literally is a magical vibe. Seeing people who would otherwise never have any business meeting one another connect really meaningfully. And that's 9 to 5 on this floor in this building. And then another one is that, so I've been doing all of this work in the community for about 4.5 years now, all pro bono, because I tried to make the most out of a situation I had. And so I need to get paid now. And we're gonna have a really, hopefully fun fundraiser on November 11th. It will likely be at 100 State. I'm trying to iron out location and event details right now, but and then we'll be launching a crowdfunding campaign on Giving Tuesday. So a lot in the works to plug into, but I guess those would probably be 3 asks. Either come this weekend, this Saturday, 9 to 5. Look for the link for signing up to be a beta tester for the GoodPoint mobile app, and come to our fundraiser on November 11th.
Well, thank you so
I'll be
much.
around if you want to follow up and ask any other questions.